Hi, it's Lil from Made by Marley. Welcome back to our channel. And today I'm going to be doing an ethnic bohemian dresser. The one that I probably, of all my furniture, this is the sort of technique or thereabouts of my most sellable furniture, the one that people keep on buying. So today we're going to be using Annie Sloan paints and some other paint. We're going to be stenciling, we're going to be stamping. We're even going to, I think, add some decoupage, so stay tuned, stay watching. This is going to be a belter. Okay, like all furniture, the first thing you have to do before you start is thoroughly clean your piece. Everybody uses lots of different things. I use a little bit of bleach and some fairy liquid, and I just scrub in it. Remember, scrub inside, remember, and do inside your drawers. The piece has been cleaned, okay? This is an Acrylic piece. I love them. They're my most favourite pieces of furniture to work on. I like everything about them. I will be leaving the hardware on today for this look, so you don't need to worry about any hardware. The thing I love most about Acrylics is this little slidey catch. And they always, I don't know what sort of special stuff they use when they do the Acrylic, but the smell, they always have a smell. So this is what it looks like. It's a dresser. It's a small dresser, so really, to be honest with you, I'm not 100% sure whether I'm still going to do the top, but when it comes to selling, I'm not sure whether I'll market it with the top on or off. It's just it's a lot narrower than the usual dressers that I sell. Now the paint is it's Annie Sloan Capri Pink, and what I've done is I've added a little bit of a Bousson Blue. And this is the sort of plummy colour that I've ended up with. It's lovely and thick. It's been sitting on my shelf for quite a while. So this is the sort of colour I'm going to be using today. Now the first thing I'm going to do is, to save this video going on forever and a day, I'm going to do 2 generous coats every which way stroke so that we build up loads of texture all over it, let it dry, and I'll come back. Okay, so our piece and the top has had 2 generous coats of the mix of the Bousson Blue and the Capri Pink. That's Annie Sloan chalk paint. So this is the colour it is. Now, the reason why I've been so lax on YouTube recently is because Martin and I have been busy doing something and we had to kind of formulate a whole plan, but I can kind of allude to some of the plan. I can give you a little bit of a sneak peek right now of what we were planning on doing. But however, before that, I have an array of, I wasn't sure whether it was going to go IOD or be designed by Prima, but whatever stamps you have that are slightly bohemian or stencils. I'm probably going to be using these stamps. I don't know which stencils yet, but these are sort of the ones that I've pulled out the drawer. Not sure which ones yet. And obviously your paint goes with whatever your decoupage paper, which brings me to my next thing. This, if you just look down, is this is the decoupage paper that we are going to be using today. We are bringing out our own range of decoupage paper. Now, when you won't have this white line, and these are just test sheets. And at the moment, we're just testing materials, but this is the pre-production. This is pre-production, but we're really very close. But this is the one I'm going to be using today. But just to give you a sort of sneak peek of some of the designs, these are my own designs. So this is a birdie one with some big peaches. Obviously, it wouldn't be me without, there's quite a very large sort of bohemian influence. All our decoupage papers will be A3 and they'll be sold in 2s. So I'm going to be doing a little bit of vintage with some florals, playing around with this sort of design. Obviously, coming into the season, I was thinking a little bit of steampunk, sort of Halloween-y kind of thing. There's quite a few sort of steampunk designs. Here's another one with a butterfly. And I'm playing around currently with some florals because I was thinking these would be excellent for, you know, the pop at the side of a drawer. So this is what we've been doing. This is what we've been busy beavering away making. Obviously, we had to buy a big, huge printer and everything else, and we've had to test it, and there's been teething problems, and then how do we package it and everything else. So this will be coming under the Made by Marley brand. I think we're going to probably call it Marley Magic Papers, but we're not quite sure. And we will, which is exciting to know, not only distribute in the UK, but we'll have one distributor in the US currently. So look out for these. These are going to be coming very, very soon. So, but back to what we're actually doing here, which is doing this. So I wasn't sure. Back to our day job. So what am I going to do on this beauty? I'm going to start, because this is very pale, I'm going to start bringing some more whites into this. This is our underneath colour. So how would I do this? So before any of the, I want predominantly some of the pattern in the centres of these. I know that much. So I'm going to start introducing, before we can put any pattern and bring it all together, we need some white. So I'm going to move this mat, because this is actually quite a good mat and I use it for staging. It was just so I could show up the decoupage paper. So we're going to need some white, and you're going to need, well, this is an off-white actually. Put it on something that you can roll with, and you're going to need some mini rollers for this one. You're going to need a brush to paint out the insides of here, because your decoupage paper is going to go in here if you're choosing to do something like this. Maybe you're just gonna, you have something already in mind. So you need quite a lot of paint for this, and you're gonna start really, you're only kind of wanting a hint of what's left behind. Now I normally do dark upon, you know, like dark upon dark, but now I want this to be one that I haven't done before, so I'm obviously adding a lot of white. So really, I'm going to go around all of the areas that I'm wanting to put design. I'm going to paint these panels out white, and there is no point you all watching me do this with a mini roller. You get the concept. If I want it deeper or more of the white, I'll just go over it and add more if I'm wanting to, because all the design work is going to go over the top of this. So, but we want that sort of distressed look underneath. So I'm thinking probably, if you look at this one here, this line here, this is how I'm probably going to do it. So I'm going to go on and do that off camera, and then we'll reconvene. The white's been applied, and it's been applied thicker on the cupboard doors where I'm going to apply the decoupage paper. Now the decoupage paper, with this design, I'm going to have one going that way and one going this way with this window, which, because it should really be applied this way, but even with my own things, I'm not applying them the way I've thought about it. So I've kind of looked at this already. Now obviously these are the test ones, so I have to take this. I might not even bother taking that little edge off because I can blend up to it. So I want to take a tiny little bit off this top edge here, just a tiny part, and I want to cut it about here. So I'm just going to bend it and fold it. I'm just going to cut it. You could rip it if you wanted to, if you're wanting to rip, but as this is designed to be non-rippable, I shouldn't be showing you that. Now, this is where this is going to go, and I'm not going to sweat it too much. Now, the best thing I think I'm going to apply mine with, because I'm still trialing all this, is today I'm going to try PVA glue, which is a really, I use PVA for loads of things, but I don't want it as thick as this. So I'm just going to add a tiny little bit of water to this until I get it slightly runnier. I was going to use Mod Podge. You could use that. You could use a thick top coat, but because it's got an element of vellum to it, you want something a little bit heavier. So I'm just mixing this round until I get a sort of consistency. You don't want it lumpy, so you want to kind of, I want it a little bit thinner than this. And then you're just going to apply it onto your surface. Now, as per usual, I've made things a little bit complicated. I have these tiny little grooves to go in. So this is why I'm using something a little bit heavier. So I'm going to start with those grooves. Make sure I get it in that join. And the same at the other side. And then I'm just going to apply all the way across where my decoupage paper is going to go. Now I'm going to try not to have any lumps with glue, because that's going to upset how our decoupage paper goes on. So nice thin even coats, making sure you've got in all the grooves, because they're going to be the parts that's going to be hard to stick the paper down into. Oh, I said I was going to take this tiny little bit off here. I've got incredibly shaky hands. Take that off there. And I want it centered-ish. Now, before I apply this, I have to start with my getting it in all these little grooves first. So I'm doing that first before I apply it, stick it down anywhere else. Obviously, I picked a really complicated thing, but if you can see, if I can do it around these complicated bits, you'll be able to do it as well. So making sure you push it all in, and it should go on completely wrinkle free. That's not easy for me to say. There we go, down in those. I'm going to put a little bit more glue down in this corner and just on this edge here. I can run that along there like that and apply that like that. Now this side here, I'm just going to do the same thing, making sure it's all glued up. Run it along here. Now remember, underneath here was pretty wrinkled to begin with, so I'm not too worried about texture. So I'm going to go on and I'm going to do this to the other side, and then we're going to start doing our design all the way around it. I've missed a little bubble up here. And just making sure that, because you want it so you can blend it right up, getting rid of those air bubbles there. Okay, so I'll go and do the other door. Okay, so I'm just applying this piece, but on this one, I'm going to try Mod Podge because we're still trying to formulate the best type of paper. And I love what I've done, but I feel, you know, I'm going to have to try lots of different ways of applying it so that I can see this is the best, which means a lot of decoupaging for me, but don't worry, I won't make you watch all the decoupaging videos in the world. So I'm pulling that down to there because this is where I want it to stick. Now there's a groove there, one here. Now you'll find Mod Podge is it's not as heavy or as sticky as PVA, so we're going to have to maybe work at this, sticking this one on, but the medium might actually be a bit lighter to save some of the wrinkles. But so I've applied the piece at the bottom and the piece at the top, and now we're going to start all our blending now, all our blending to make this look like it's all one piece. So I'm going to just go away and fiddle with this to get it the way I'm happy with it, and then we're back to the next part. Okay, so let's start getting colours onto this. Now, I just kind of I picked the colours out of it. I want quite a lot of the distress shown underneath. This is all going to have Indian sort of stamping, bohemian stamping over it. So, you know, I'm not wanting to blot out too much of what we've done, but I want it all there, if you know what I mean. It's kind of difficult to explain. So the three colours, I've picked my three colours that I'm going to do as my base. And what I'm just basically doing is I'm just adding them. I've done the other side because I want to go and have a coffee and I would like this to dry while I'm having it. So I'm doing a blue band down there and I had a bit coming up here. Doesn't have to be exact on either side. It just has to be kind of like it is kind of like uniform. So on top of these, I'm using self-sealing paints over my chalk paint because that's how I roll. Oh, I can see a piece of my decoupage paper there. It's popping off. So I'm going to do this one slightly different than the other one. I'm going to have some more blue on here. And then what I did next was I just came in with my yellow. And I'm bearing in mind I'm trying to keep as much as I didn't change my brush. I didn't care if it blended. Some yellow there. I'm going to run some yellow along here. Now, right now, you're probably thinking, oh no. I mean, I'm sure you think that quite a lot when I'm doing stuff, but this is definitely it's gonna all magically work in a minute. Once I start stamping it, it'll suddenly all become quite apparent what I'm actually doing. But right now, I can imagine what you're thinking. So there. want a yellow stripe down here. And as I said, I don't mind if it's going into my blend. A bit more there. And I think I'm kind of loving my work there. I'm just going to go around there because I can. Now, the Annie Sloan Capri Pink. And I am going round here. Now, before I do that, I'm going to just stick a bit of glue under here because I'm going to be coming around this edge in a minute. So it's not so much a blend, it's more of a distress around the edges here. I've not been very smart when I've applied this. I did this side in a rush a minute ago, so let's bring the pink down onto the decoupage paper. I'm framing this out, you see. Framing around the edge here. And then what you're doing is you're just kind of picking out areas, because remember we were going to stamp this, that you're going to not covering up too much of what went below it, because what was the point of it all if that's the case. And a bit of this. I think I've got a bit more pink on this side, on the other side than this side. I keep seeing pieces that I want to add more pink to. Around there. And I think that's all I'm going to do on here. I'm going to let this dry because right now it looks, well, I don't know, it looks like a bit like a Picasso gone wrong, but when it comes to the stamping, this will all make complete sense. I promise you it will, because that's when we're going to do all our fun parts. So I'll let that dry and we'll come back. These sort of layered stamping effects always look better with all the small detail first and then larger detail over the top. So I'm going to go with this sort of little small sort of paisley pattern one first, and this is where it gets kind of fun because you don't need to worry about it all stamping off in all areas, and you can twirl it around. Now the colour I'm putting on over the top of this is this sort of pinky colour here, so I'm pulling that out yet again from there. So I've got my stamp, I've got my pink down here on the floor. You don't need to see the mess that I'm making because normally Martin decides to home in on it. Take it as red. It's not as messy as usual, but it's getting that way. So load up your stamp with your Eco Tiny mini roller because they are the best ways to deal with that. And I don't care where particularly if I'm going over anything. I'm not too bothered about that or where I'm going with it, but I don't even mind if I go back over the decoupage. I want to try and get some of this in here. So you can see that is what I'm looking for. You could probably twirl it round and have another crack at it here. I was hoping to get it in there, but I might have to get stencils into those little ones, those little areas. So I'm going to load it up again. And so all I'm going to do really now is kind of go around the detail of this, putting in the pink before I go over it with a much darker colour. Because then we'll be doing something else. This is just kind of setting the scene for what's below it, if you know what I mean. So, and this is all I'm going to do. So I'm going to go on and do this with my light pink, and I'm going to stamp out both of the doors with the pink, and then I'm going to show you what's going to go over the top of this. I've put all the pink on the surround, and now I'm using a smaller stamp with a sort of tealy green colour, which coordinates with these flowers down here. And my stamp is slightly warped. It's one I use quite often, so it's kind of giving it a bit of a wavy appearance. But all I'm doing now is I'm just stamping around the doors just to kind of give it a sort of, now with these small ones you just need a little sort of makeup sponge, and I just run it along it quickly along with the makeup sponge. It just makes it reasonably quick, especially if you've got a lot to do. The good thing about this look is it's very forgiving. It's the overall sort of look you get at the end. So I'm going to go on and I'm going to do round this door, probably some of these edges up here, and then I'll show you the next stamp we're going to use. Okay, so I'm using this stamp now, and all I've been doing is I've been putting these on this side of the drawers. I have added a stencil line of this down here in the pink, and what I'm trying to do right now is try and do one thing at once. So these are on either side of the drawers. Oh, I could do with a bit more paint on this. What I'm trying to do is use this one here, but it's coming out quite messy. It's coming out through the stencil. So I'm going to have to go back and rework that because it's too untidy. But my intention, because I've got one of these at the other side of this, is to put these across the piece. Now I'll explain my thinking about this. This is similar to this. So what I'll do to tidy these up is I'll do a pink outline and I'll do this yellow around the centre. So I'm not too concerned that they're a little bit. I have to fix this here, but we are nearly, I put some stenciling on the doors. It's just the same sort of stencils repeated. And this is where we're at with the front. And the front is just about done. I just need to put these dark flowers on this side, and then I'll come back when I go to fix these in and I'll show you what I'm doing there. But apart from that, that's pretty much what I'm going to do on the front. So I've got another sheet here and I'm just trying to work out my positioning. So I think I'm going to cut it into 3 sections, or at least 2 sections. I'm sure you'll do this if you're cutting decoupage paper. You'll do a nice straight job, but this section, yeah, it's always easier to tell where to cut if you go the other side. Just top tip there. And now I'm going to have to work out what to do with this bottom part in a minute, but I'm going to do something like try and run it down the middle of the piece and do all the other work, something like this. I'm going to have to try and fill in, so I might use these sort of flowery parts just by cutting that straight up the middle. How I've kind of designed the paper is this. If you can see this part here, these are for drawer fronts. I've kind of done a sort of drawer width, so you could cut it off there and you'd have your drawer fronts as well. I've tried to make it, because I'm actually furniture, because I do the furniture all the time, I've tried to make it that this is as versatile as you possibly can. So along the ways, there's like lots of different ways you can cut it or rip it. But that just thought I'd digress there. So I'm going to try and add a little bit of detail, just trying to keep this edge up in here. Or shall I pull this up? Because when it's straight above, you're not going to see right under there. So that was why I think I'll do this. I'll put it on first. I know the top part, where the top part's going, and then I'll work out the finer details. It's like everything, you just have to kind of work out the finer details when it's the finer details time. So again, plenty of glue, making sure that it's not too lumpy. I have found, and we're still trialing paper, but I have found this one slightly wrinkly, but we've just got our design, so now we're just fiddling around with the paper, so we'll get there. This one isn't difficult to work with. In fact, it goes on nice at the beginning and then it just goes a little bit awry. I'm just kind of getting that as straight as I want it, going down into these grooves. Again, I'm working down the same sort of groove situation that I had down the bottom with the drawers. Making sure I've done this, and then getting my brush and just going over it. Now, I don't know whether it's because my surface underneath is it's had 2 coats of chalk paint, and then it's had loads of distress over the top, what's making it wrinkly, but we've got lots of boards to test as well, so we'll see what happens next. We're just giving you a sneak peek, Martin says. just, it's more for the designs. They're not going to really, they're kind of like formulated. It's more just, I wanted to start, and I wanted the lotus flowers for this one in particular, and we had it, so, and I couldn't wait because I have no patience. Martin's got loads, I have none. I think that maybe comes across sometimes. Loads of patience for art and making things. Can do that forever and a day. Wanting things to happen. I want them to happen yesterday, which is very frustrating for Martin, isn't it, Marty? Yep. Because I've done things before where I've said, I want to paint the front room, and he said, oh right, yeah, no problem, and I went, and I bought the paint. So that's how I'm going to do this, so that the lily runs down the centre, or it kind of looks like it's going to. I'm going to work out off camera how I fit in these little parts here, but I think it's probably going to be with these little parts here that I've cut off, so that I'm not losing this edge, because I want to keep this edge, because I'm going to work right up to that edge there, so to help with my nice clean hands. So I'll go away off camera and work that out, and then we'll get to put some colour on this. Okay, it's pretty much rinse and repeat of the other side now. We're putting on our colour, and that's really kind of down to what you want. So I've already kind of mixed some of this yellow through this. So on my brush, I could get a clean brush, but I'm not going to, because there's green in our design. So I'm only kind of trying to paint this half here just now, so you know, because our stamping, I'm going to try and recreate this pink stamping up the side here. So I'm going to do something like this. I know this much here. I'm going to do some blue, yellow in here. And this really now is sort of personal choice. What you think is good, it depends on what colour you started with, what colours in your decoupage paper. Remember, you want to try and keep the worn look from underneath. So I'm going to try and avoid that sort of corner a little bit. I think I'm going to probably maybe do squares, because that way I can stamp it easier. Different on the shelves, you can do whatever colour you want. Now, I'm only going to do this part just now, just so you can see what I'm doing. So that's probably enough, what I would describe as having enough of the blue on there. Now, I've got clean brushes. I was all prepared a minute. So now we're going to add our yellow, same yellow as we added before, and I think I'm going to kind of do something like that. And again, you're probably thinking, oh, here we go. But it all works because I've proven it on the bottom half. Oh, well, but I think I've proven it. I mean, maybe you're sitting at home going, you know, it's a matter of opinion. Now I want to add some of my pink. The pink. Not so much, this isn't blending it. I'm just doing it so that, oh, well, that bit there's got to be pink now. Something stuck in my paint there. I'm getting to the very bottom of this can of Capri Pink, and it's a little bit gritty. I think I'm going to do a pink in this corner here. So I'm going to bring that right up into there. I'll do a bit of pink there. I'll do more pink on this shelf than I have on the one below it. So you can see what I'm doing. I'm mixing and matching my paint colours, setting down a background for the stamp work, and this is what I've chosen. So I'm going to go and do the whole thing now. I probably won't do the outsides. I think on the outsides I'm just going to keep to this blue, but don't paint all of it, if you know what I mean, and I'll show you that once I've done it. Once this is dry, we'll get to the stamping. Okay, what I'm doing here is, like I've done up here, I'm just adding more to this edge, just so it doesn't look like I've stuck a piece of decoupage paper down it. There's no pattern to blend out on that, but there's the design, you know, it's not like it's a big flower that I can match it up with. So I've just found a stencil. It was actually the other side of the
the flower one here that I'm using, and all I'm doing is I'm just extending that line. So that's what I'm doing here. I'm going to go on now and I'm going to start kind of deciding, and I'll probably do the same thing as I did on the other side, which is use something with a large pattern to do the base, and then kind of work in sections till I stamp the rest in. So you've pretty much seen me do lots of stamp. You've seen me do this on the other piece. I'll do that, but if it gets to anything interesting, I'll get Martin to film it.
Okay, so we've done the pattern in the centre, this here, but I picked the lily and I recreated just a sort of my interpretation, and I add a little bit of white because there's white in the centre. I'm just going to show you how I did it on this side here. Really did it simply. I just used a small artist brush, and it's just a sort of interpretation. So I'm thinking of these sort of floaty wide leaves that are coming out, and this is what I'm trying to recreate here. So I just really loosely, that paint early did something like this, and then I just got my hot pink and I just, as the lily leaves are on the, just kind of fiddled around with it a little bit and did some sort of pink and did that. And then what I did was I got this colour here and I recreated these on in the middle of them. So I'm just going to go on and do the, in fact, I'll just get the colour and I'll show you what I did. I just got this and I just tried to my best to recreate that sort of seed pod that I put into the design. It's really weird and quite bizarre that I'm painting in my own design, but here we go. So that's sort of seed pod shape, just as in that one there. And all I did was I got the blue and I just highlighted it in the centre, and then I went back with the white outline, which is just a white acrylic pen. Now, like that, yeah. I'll get mine just to pan back just slightly, just so you've got it in context. So this is the top now, but I realised that this band here is too pink. I'm keeping this colour, the top, because this colour runs through the whole piece. In the flowers, it runs through the blend underneath. I've touched it slightly with dirty hands, so I need to touch that top part up. But I'm going to put a little bit of more, not all of it, I'm not eradicating the pink line. I just want to make it that it blends more with what's happening underneath. The only other thing I did on the underneath was I changed the colour of the handles. So we're nearly done. We're nearly on to sealing. That's where I'm at. I need to go around these flowers with my marker to make them look more like these ones here. And I'll show you that in a minute. So what I'm doing here is I'm just repairing the messy stenciling and just going around it all, and I'm trying to make it look similar to this one here, but not, it doesn't have to be exact. I'm just making it look prettier. And I'm just using a gold acrylic pen. So I'm going to go on and I'm going to make all my little flowers look pretty, and then we're going to wax the top and roughly go, I don't very often go on about the ceiling, but I'll quickly tell you 5 minutes of what you do there. It won't be 5 minutes, it'll be a couple of minutes, but I'm just going to go around all of these. So I said I was going to wax it, but instead I'm going to lacquer it. So using lacquer, it's all one way. 2 generous coats. You wait till each coat's properly dry. I'm just going to go on and I'm going to lacquer the whole piece of furniture, and then we will be ready for the glamour shots. What did we do today? Today we did lots of layering. If you're going to do this technique, you have to have lots of layers, lots of every which way stroke chalk paint works best. 2 good coats, 2 good thick coats, because you really want all the layers and all the texture. Then you have to think about what's your background colour is going to be. What then your stamps, start with a small print stamp and then build it up to bigger.
Think about your colours, how they all work together. Think about if you're adding decoupage. I mean, this is my decoupage. So if you've got something to work to, then think about your colours. Think about how your colours work with your decoupage, and think about it as an overall, your positive and your negative spaces, and you can't go wrong. It's pretty simple to do. You just need to keep on layering, and don't worry, because you saw so many times that it looks bad at one point, and you think, oh no, 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 no. But the thing is, I kind of just, I know that it's a process. So don't stop there and go, I can't do this. Just keep going. That's the key to this. Now, I've been learned from me by Marley. Thank you for subscribing. If you haven't already subscribed, could you consider subscribing? Give this video a like and send me a message. I always answer all my messages. A thumbs up, and even consider sharing it. And I'll see you again another day. Thank you. Bye bye.